Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Kidney Coach YouTube channel. I'm naturopathic Dr. Fiona Chin, co-founder of the Kidney Disease Solution, Kidney Coach and Kaigenesis. And I am joined today for the first time by a wonderful new guest, Dr. Dr. Alex Grinberg, who joins me all the way from San Francisco. Now, I am going to give a bit of a longer introduction than I normally do because this man is so qualified when it comes to longevity medicine, when it comes to the future of medicine and what it looks like. So Dr. Alexander Grinberg grew up in Russia and was actually started his medical degree at the age of 16. So he didn't tell me this, but I'm going to think that he's a bit of a savant and a genius when it comes to that if you're starting your medical degree when you're 16 years old. He did that with 6 years training in Russia and then went on to do a PhD in medical immunology. He also trained under the very famous doctor, and we would pronounce it Cavachon here in the USA or Australia, but I am told the correct pronunciation is Havachon in Russian. So as people may know, if you're into peptides, Dr. Havachon was the real pioneer when it comes to peptide medicine. Now, this was back in the 80s. Sorry, Dr. Grinberg, to give away your age there maybe, but peptides have really just come into the forefront of medicine in the USA and in places like Australia and the UK, really in the last sort of 5 to 10 years. But Dr. Grinberg has been really at the forefront of peptide medicine since the 80s and was privy to all the initial research that was done around that in the Soviet Union, which I think is pretty amazing. He has a special interest in longevity medicine, lifespan extension, and obviously how peptides can play a role in that, personalized anti-aging and tailoring interventions to really impact the genome in individuals, nutritional optimization and lifestyle medicine. He sits on the board of so many different things, but the big one that I want to say is the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, also known as the A4M. He sits on the board of a few other big universities. I know he's chairing up the board here in university here in Adelaide, Australia, to help with some new research that's coming out. And with amongst all of that and all the research that he's done and in and out, he has always had one finger in being a clinical practitioner and how to bridge the gap between all the amazing knowledge that he knows and really at the forefront of really understanding longevity and the genome and virology. He's done a lot of work in virology. I know virologists are very smart when it comes to taking what they learn from virology and then applying it to genome and lifestyle extension. So in amongst him doing all of that, learning and staying up to date and pioneering and heading up all of that, he's still been seeing patients in amongst all his spare time. So he's very much practical. He's really great at bridging the gap between what I would say is very technical knowledge and pioneering breakthroughs and engineering new treatments, and then bringing that to the general public and helping people. So I think I've covered the bulk of it. There is actually so much more there that he's done, but we would be here for 5 days if I went through everything. Dr. Grinberg, welcome. Is there anything else that you really wanted me to add in there that I haven't covered in your amazing credentials? Because I think you're the most qualified person we've ever had on our podcast. So I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything that was important in all of that.
Thank you so much, Fiona, for this wonderful introduction. Thank you. That covers everything, and that I hope it helps the people who watch it to understand the connection between the things that we will discuss. And good morning to everyone.
Perfect. Okay, so what we're going to get into today is obviously everything that you do, and it's linked to chronic kidney disease. But I found it really fascinating when we caught up the other day that because you're so at the forefront of longevity medicine, that you were saying to me that chronic kidney disease is something you see a lot of, but it's often of consequence because when you're doing really integrated and deep pathology testing, when you're really working with people as individuals, kidney disease comes up time and time again when you're looking at longevity. So why don't you help our audience understand the link between, as we know, kidney disease being maybe underdiagnosed in the Western world and how you see it appear and what you think will see the drivers of chronic kidney disease are?
Thank you. First, kidney are a wonderful organ and extremely important organ. And since ancient times, kidney were considered one of the main organs for longevity. It's very well known that in traditional Chinese medicine and Oriental medicine, the role of kidney was extremely important, and ancient doctors or traditional doctors were paying attention to balance of energy in kidneys, kidney yin and yang, and the primordial energy of kidney jing was extremely important to balance it and to maintain it. And as time passes by, we get more understanding, and now we can make a correlations between what they meant talking about different kidney energies and kidney jing. And now it's exciting and very interesting to find correlations between some deep molecular biology and cell biology of the kidney and kidney yin yang and kidney jing. It's very exciting. It's now I think we can make parallels about on these topics. So kidney have in Western medicine, it's also very well known that kidney have a huge number of different physiological functions, and also kidney are very sophisticated organ. It's very well differentiated organ, and till most recently, many doctors and scientists believe that because the organ is so well differentiated, it's very hard to significantly change or improve kidney function when there is some disorder. But fortunately, the science develops, the knowledge develops, and we can discuss more today about what can be done and how it can be helped. And first, I can tell people that we should be more optimistic and more positive about reversal kidney conditions and improving kidney health.
Well, I think that's a great thing for people to hear. And I'm so glad to hear someone of your caliber and medical experience bridge the gap between what us little naturopaths were taught years and years and years ago, that the kidneys were the organ of chi and energy. And now that you can actually start to see the biological and genome connection between why that actually is the case. So what the ancient traditional medicine Chinese practitioners were saying for so long, and we can now see that in the science. And it's, I mean, we're not seeing it in our traditional doctors yet and our GPs, but when people like you start to say that, how long do you think the gap is between traditional Western medicine catching up to some of the concepts that have been around for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years, when it comes to kidneys and the role that they really play in longevity and in our energy and our overall well-being?
Luckily, everything gets accelerated thanks to our times, thanks to advancement in different sciences and triangulation of data. So some time I've been working in China in biotech business, and I was happy to see the level of research in Chinese academia and institutions on deep knowledge of fundamental studies of effects like genetics, cell biology, metabolic effects of active substances derived from traditional Chinese medicine. At the same time, in Western medicine and in traditional biology, there is also a lot of research on applications of cell medicine, peptide medicine, and better understanding of how intimate mechanisms inside the cells, inside the kidney is a very complex organ, as we know, and there are a lot of different tissues and different cell types with very specific morphology and their structure through the evolution develop in the way to support the maximal way the specific process that they are responsible in the kidney. So now there is deeper understanding on how, let's say, changes in mitochondrial function, lipid peroxidation, or change in expression of certain genes inside the different types of kidney cells affect kidney physiology and on a bigger scale the health of the patient. So there is convergence of a better understanding and deeper level of knowledge about intimate processes inside the kidney cells from traditional science, Western medicine, and also deeper level of science applied in traditional Chinese medicine, where people start understanding deep genetics, molecular biology effects, and responses to substances derived from traditional Oriental plants or other agents that use there, how they combine together. It's also another very interesting area. It's a lot of attention paid to interactions between medications and traditional pharmacology, but in traditional Oriental medicine, herbal medicine, it's only beginning of the science how to combine different ingredients, how they affect each other, pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics of different active substances derived from plants and other agents used in traditional medicine.
Amazing. It's really exciting to see these technologies and understandings coming down the pipeline. So I wanted to get more into when you see a patient, so I want to keep this practical for our audience. If someone comes in to see you for longevity, what sort of tests are you running? Is it the standard EGFR, creatinine, cystatin? Is that where you would be looking to see if there are changes in kidney function? Or are there other biological markers and tests that you might look for that may give you a clue that there are starting to be changes inside the kidneys that would be starting to suggest chronic kidney disease? Because I know you see things completely differently. So, yeah, what other biochemical markers, symptoms maybe that people are coming with that your brain might be going, hang on a minute, there might be some chronic kidney disease here that I need to look at?
Again, thank you so much, Fiona, for such good questions. You make it much easier for me to organize what I want to say. Thank you. So, let's say someone feels healthy and wants to see me just for age reversal, for making sure that his or her lifespan and health span get extended. I start with basic tests, but it's much broader panel of tests even at the entry level. So definitely I use comprehensive chemistry panel that probably same in United States, Australia, and Europe. And definitely I have a look there at creatinine and BUN and GFR. But I also check cells and basic blood cells count. But in addition to this, of course, I check hemoglobin A1C to see. But in addition to this, I love to see extended hormone panel where in addition to traditional hormones, I try to see leptin and adiponectin and let's say subpopulation of steroid hormones. In addition to total and free testosterone, I like to see DHEA, I like to see estradiol, estriol levels, of course, sex hormone binding protein, and pituitary hormones, and if possible, also GI, gastrointestinal hormones, gastrin and glucagon, and less famous hormones as well. Then I love to see the heavy metals screen. So we'll get to this later, but definitely at our times, a lot of people suffer from different kind of contamination and pollution. And one of the system it affects kidney. Certain heavy metals affect kidney. Then I love to have a lymphocytes panel done to see CD markers on lymphocytes. It gives a lot of ideas on how this person's immune system is functioning and how it deals with senescence, because certain CD types reflective of amount of senescent cells, level of NK cells, and their activity may tell us how efficiently body gets rid of senescent cells. And in addition to this, I love to check cancer markers. And in addition to clinically available standard cancer markers, I also advise people to do more extensive tests like Grail gallery test that helps to find traces of more than 50, probably now by around 100 cancers and rare cancers. And why I do this explanation is in working to help patient to reverse age. Certain agents and interventions are biologically activating, and if there is silent or yet undiagnosed mutated group of mutated cells or cancerous condition, I don't want to activate that.
Fantastic. So part of what you're doing is making sure whatever interventions you're using aren't going to upregulate certain gene expressions or something that might be just
Yes.
sitting there in the background.
That's extremely important. Even I would caution people, even people who get high level of vitamin B12 injections or some other vitamin, if they have undiagnosed oncological conditions, let's say someone has undiagnosed hematological oncology, and vitamin B12 can activate bone marrow even more and can activate some smoldering or not yet active conditions. So I'm very careful with this. Then I also like to see imaging studies. If people have ultrasound of abdominal ultrasound, that's great. If they have recent, depending on age, colonoscopy, chest X-ray. And if people budget allows this, I recommend having a whole body MRI. That's also a very good test.
That's very gained a lot of popularity in the US there in the last year or so. It hasn't done that in Australia yet, but see all the famous people doing that.
But honestly, I like more to see Grail gallery test results, because even a whole body MRI cannot pick up some new growth at the level of few cells.
Okay.
That's yeah, but some people who are enthusiasts of longevity, when they come to see me, they already have it. So I'm happy to evaluate this as well.
Amazing.
And then it's very important to see nutrients level both in blood plasma, but also in the cells, because now we know that there is not necessarily correlation and consistency between nutrients level in the blood plasma and in the cells. And luckily now we have labs that are able to determine levels of microelements and vitamins inside the red blood cells, and that's good. Then I like to have good reliable microbiome testing to get an idea of biome, and also, if possible, to include mycology tests to see what mycotoxins we may be dealing with. That's very important. And immunology-based food intolerances tests is good. And also, as the last few years, there is big development in the companies providing gene testing. I regularly check and try to find most efficient in terms of providing actionable knowledge companies that provide genome decoding and different methylation panels and telomere health panels, to find the companies that not just satisfy curiosity, but really can give me actionable knowledge, where I can see and identify groups of genes that have partial mutations, so mutation that again, luckily, at our times, we can address using peptides, we can affect gene expression in these groups of genes, so affect entire pathway, like say inflammatory or pathway leading to autoimmunity or to attrition of mitochondria or attrition of telomeres or leading to some metabolic loss of metabolic flexibility. So all this should be considered and put together and analyzed. Forgive me if I have not mentioned everything, but based on results from this test, ongoing results, sometimes I'm adding additional tests, like say people with long COVID, I add a test for blood gases because many people with long COVID, I see different changes in level of oxygen and carbon dioxide in their blood. Some people I check if possible stem cells viability and level of exhaustion of stem cells. That's all important, and amino acid levels. So it's also very interesting. And
Wow.
if there is indication, and like someone has abnormal lipids, then I go for extended lipid panel that has 20 or 30 parameters. And again, I'm very thankful to people from A4M. In integrative medicine, we have best integrative doctors. Like if I see some abnormalities in cardiovascular system, I consult with integrative cardiologist there and use their labs for extensive panel. If there is some suspicion of neoplasm or oncological growth, I can have a second opinion or consult or borrow this testing and labs from integrative oncologists from the system. So it's developing and it's very helpful. And it took me years to find different labs where I can get responses to some questions that I have at a very subtle level to see things like level of phagocytosis or certain immunoglobulins, and it's developing and a vast body of science.
Well, that's amazing. So, I mean, I would say I'm a very extensive tester, and we know not everyone can afford all the tests, but for someone that can, they're going to get a full detective workout. And what I love hearing and what you just said too, the humility in around if you're not sure of something, you've got fellow people that you can consult with and double check, even with all your knowledge, which I think is a rare gift in people. So that's just amazing. So really, by the end of that, you have got a very, very good idea, and obviously with your training, of exactly what biochemical processes are going on, what genes might be upregulated or downregulated, what biochemical pathways are doing what. When it comes to chronic kidney disease, and this is a really big question that I don't actually know the answer to. I know fundamentally what feels right to me. Do you see a really similar pattern when chronic kidney disease is the thing? Like, can you say, okay, definitely these biochemical pathways are going to be out, these heavy metals will be elevated, I'm going to see these lipids, I'm going to see these markers? Or is it such an individual thing that there is no one overall marker or pattern that fits certain diseases? I know it's a big question, but I'm actually really curious to see if there is something in there that you're specifically looking for, or whether it's just such an individual journey or expression in people.
Thank you, Fiona. I would say all of the above. Definitely, statistically, if we think about statistics, there are some very common things. If we say very typical for our times and populations, metabolic syndrome, loss of insulin loss of insulin sensitivity and increase of glucose tolerance, and definitely it leads to complications in the kidney. There is no question, and that's probably, as we know that there is epidemic of diabetes, that leads to increase in frequency of chronic kidney disease. And then, depending on genetic predispositions, in one person, diabetes can be kind of favorable ground for infection, and then it will be more infection in the kidney with pyelonephritis. In other person, it could lead to diabetic glomerulopathy, another person to fibrotic and sclerotic changes. But this depends on genetic predispositions. And actually now some genetic tests give an idea what predispositions people may have. And also good nephrologists, they can also tell based on combination of this data of creatinine, BUN, microglobulins in the urine, protein in the urine, and combination with other factors, which process is prevalent in the kidney. Is it infection? Is it autoimmune attack on the endothelial of glomeruli? Is it papillary necrosis due to certain toxins? Or is it interstitial disease due to certain abnormal immune reactions? And so it's this is kind of broad description. Also, there are so many relatively rare kidney conditions that different kinds of nephritis and glomerulopathies, and obviously there are some genetic predispositions, and but there are phenotypical factors that lead to expressions or suppression of the genes that either responsible for deterioration of kidney morphology and function or stabilization.
Amazing. So my next question is, taking another zoom out, what do you, I mean, why is there, and I'm going to preempt this with saying we know there's an increase in diabetes and cardiovascular disease. They're the two leading causes of chronic kidney disease. But why do you think there is an increase in chronic disease in general and kidney disease? Is it just, can we just boil it down to those two things? Or do you think environmentally and lifestyle-wise, there's been some big changes that now make people far more predisposed to not just kidney disease, but these other big, long chronic diseases that really are affecting longevity? Because for the first time, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of us aren't getting older now. We might live longer, but we're living with really chronic diseases.
Thank you. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Diabetes, metabolic changes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, they are very well and common causes that lead to kidney disease. So probably people are very well educated, and I would move on to less known and popular topics. So
that'd be great.
Because I definitely I want to say that alcohol and smoking are all these terrible risk factors, definitely, but people know this, and they are not least important, but I just want to move on. So
no, good. Yep. Get into the good.
Kidney is an organ that is at the forefront of dealing with everything. Like people don't realize well that even certain supplements or foods, like say they contain a lot of phosphorus, and if a person has healthy but predisposed to developing some condition kidney, excessive phosphorus can be very damaging. And it's very easy to get excessive phosphorus. Just, I don't know if people realize this, but 2 glasses of milk have more phosphorus probably than a steak, right? Yeah, so it's very important to pay attention to this. Other factors, overload with potassium, getting so many, there is craziness about proteins. Everyone wants to build up muscle mass, and people eat huge amounts of proteins. And if people are absolutely healthy, maybe that's okay, but if people have predisposition to kidney disease, these proteins affect their kidney, and I would say in terms of traditional Chinese medicine, they steal kidney gene.
Yeah, yep, no, I'd agree with that.
Also supplements. While supplements, as all supplements have good intent, but look at the supplements. It's many companies think their thinking is like McDonald's: the bigger the portion, the better off you are, or the more the consumer will pay. So I look at supplements and see like 10,000, 2,000% of recommended daily amount of vitamins B, or high amounts of chromium, of vanadium, and this and this. And if you talk to nephrologists, they just say that's crazy, because even higher than RDA amount of very benign vitamins B1, B2, B5, certain predisposition to certain kidney conditions can be very dangerous. Higher than normal dose of vitamin D in certain conditions can quickly lead to calcification of small vessels. Even one injection of high amount of vitamin D, like 50,000 or 100,000, people get in this vitamin IV spa, in predisposed people can lead to calcification, or particularly in predisposed small vessels. And kidney have very sensitive blood vessels, as we all know, right? They're very sensitive. Also, now there is a theory that one assault makes system very sensitive to repeated assault like this. So, and it happens again and again, and so many factors, and leave alone all these heavy metals and everything. Many people tell me, oh, we eat only fish, we eat this and this, but now with all this mercury, but it gets tested for mercury, but who knows how much cadmium is there, how much aluminum, everything gets into the oceans. And I believe this is also very tough on kidney.
Yeah,
and
it's very true.
Sorry. And then pharmaceuticals. So many pharmaceuticals, even metformin and rapamycin, drugs that many people take for longevity. Metformin is not for everyone, and actually research showed that it extended lifespan of people with type 2 diabetes, and then it was quickly extrapolated to extended lifespan of everyone, but it's not true. And for people with predisposition for kidney conditions, metformin may be a dangerous drug. Same for statins. And rapamycin is a cytostatic. Some people can tolerate it well. Some people can get kidney failure from this medication. And we live in the times when people consume so many supplements, food additives, GMO food. They provide us with proteins that were not designed by Mother Nature to digest. We don't have enzymes. When this entire protein not being broken down to amino acids get into the bloodstream, you can guess that its bloodstream brings it to kidney, and how poor kidney can filtrate such a huge molecules. So I mentioned only a few factors, but I see and level of stress, level of EMF. I'm sure EMF, look at the kids carry the cell phones on their genitals or around their kidney. Who wants to do this? It's like carrying microwave there. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's, we just exposed, 100 years ago, we didn't have GMOs, EMFs, our food was grown, less chemicals. And I feel like over time, just the burden of what we get exposed to is it's not one or two things. Everybody's exposed to multiple things. You can't escape EMF. And luckily in Australia,
you can mitigate this. You should be conscious about this. I'm not advocating to being paranoid and living in the 5 Faraday cage, but still, you don't have to carry this stuff on your body.
No, No,
exactly.
exactly
Then
right.
other things, and there are other things. So many different diets. Someone is on intermediate fasting. Someone keto dieting. It's not for everyone, and
Yeah.
it's everything should be customized and extremely well individualized. Otherwise, it can be very harmful. And what else? There's dieting, and also definitely medications and different procedures that sometimes different interventions in different fields of medicine, not considering kidney. Like I see a lot of unnecessary use of contrast in MRI, while we have very high resolution MRI now, but obviously insurances pay more when it's done with contrast. And I frequently see uh, unexcusable use of contrast, disregarding the patient risk of kidney failure or having compromised kidney function, and so many other things, plastics, different skin care.
Mm.
People don't consider this, using talc, so many things. Basically, kidneys suffer from everything that humankind invented.
It's so true. And back to the contrast dyes, because I see so many people with MS. I have seen the gadolinium contrast dye just cause so many issues in so many people where you run a heavy metal test and they're full of it. So yeah, that's one thing I definitely see. So okay, so we've got the drivers.
One more thing
Yeah.
I definitely want to mention, because
Mm.
I want our people, our audience, to benefit immediately from what they hear. So, so many people do extreme things, cold water plunge, or contrary, like hyperthermic, or
Hmm.
some infrared sauna. And it's very important to understand that it's not for everyone. Again, predispositions. I have very good friends, practitioners of Tibetan medicine here. While they are from Tibet, where extreme colds are very common, they say we don't expose people deliberately to extreme colds because it steals the kidney primordial energy. And so many people use this cold water plunges and this and this. Yes, it gives immediate release of endorphins and energy, but we don't know how in long terms it affects kidney, how in long terms it affects longevity, because I think, my opinion is, it consumes a lot of energy from we can talk about hormesis, where we stimulate the system, and then system just, what doesn't kill you makes it stronger. But for very healthy people, maybe, but for some people, it can affect the kidney as well and trigger release of cryoglobulins that will clog the glomerular small blood vessels there. Same for extreme heat, that also creates rapid dehydration, and no one rehydrates fast, even if they drink enough, and can also be all of a kidney, very delicate organ. And I think for longevity, golden rule is moderation.
Mm. It's funny, my acupuncturist said exactly the same thing about cold exposure. She's just like, it is just not something we recommend when it comes to acupuncturist understanding of how you would replenish chi throughout the body. So, with all of that being said, what are your treatment considerations? What are your go tos when it comes to managing someone with either kidney disease predispositions or someone with chronic kidney disease? When you're looking at working with them and taking their body back into homeostasis and increasing their vitality, what are your favorite sort of interventions, and there might be more than just a few there, that you would use specifically for kidney disease?
Mhm. So once again, please forgive me if I skip all traditional stuff, reducing stress and all dietary and common sense interventions, and
Mhm.
also treating all other conditions that may contribute, whether it's caries affected tooth, or chronic streptococcal infection, or this and this. It's obvious, but let's get to very specific and kind of currently less known
Mm.
interventions that may help people. Peptide medicine, as you mentioned at the beginning, unfortunately, I never met Professor Hamilton personally, But in the institution where I was working, we were participating in clinical research of his first peptides derived from thymus gland. It was very interesting research. We applied them for many different conditions, for oncological conditions, for first groups of HIV patients. Actually, excuse me, I have to get back to factor that affects kidney. There are so many viruses now, and latent and dormant viruses that so important that I have to get back to this. It's not just COVID, but it's all CMV and PPV, herpes, and so many less known viruses. And there are also dormant viruses that have been living in our genomes since 100 generations, but they're still there, and they can jump from one group to another and cause significant mutations. So it's very important. And in addition to my in my basic test that I start doing for people longevity, I always test them for viruses, but I don't get crazy. I don't test them for some exotic viruses. From clinical point of view and with the arsenal of treatments we have, it's only important DNA or RNA virus, and that's it. Because if we find hundreds of exotic viruses, there is nothing specific you can do about them. So, but if you see few different viruses, a few of them DNA viruses and few of them RNA viruses, you can do certain interventions.
Okay, interesting.
There are
All right, sorry, keep going. Back to peptides, yeah?
It's very important to understand that these viruses affect kidney. They affect telomeres in many cells across the human body, but particularly for kidney, they may affect a lot of specific intercellular processes and leading to attrition of this mitochondrial illness, leading to even losing efficiency of how ribosomes synthesize certain proteins. So there are a lot of things that this even so-called latent viruses can do, and they also significantly affect the efficiency of DNA reparation, because they create so much white noise in what is currently called by scientists retrobiome. This is a space around DNA where the small pieces related to different viral intrusions get transcribed, efficiently interfering with DNA repair. And there were some works where inhibitors of reverse transcriptase improved clinical conditions in certain groups of patients, but this is a separate story. But these viruses affect kidney. So back to peptides. Peptides are amazing molecules that can provide very significant both epigenetical changes and also deeper changes related to, I would say, all kind of chain engaged in these deep biological processes, from DNA splicing and transcription and other processes involved in this very complex basic biological process. So peptides, the number of peptides is huge. There are thousands of them, and probably each one also produces individual peptides related to his or her genome. But commercially available peptides, there are at least few hundreds of them, and peptides used clinically, even smaller number of them, probably few dozens of them actively used in clinics. But even with this number of peptides, we can achieve tremendous clinical results. And again, for the sake of saving time, I will not elaborate on specifics, but depending on, of course, it depends on the etiology, the cause of the process that was leading to this particular patient kidney problems. and there will be peptides included to treat this root process, to mitigate this. But also directly for kidney, there are a number of peptides, like all mitochondrial peptides widely used, SS31, humanin, and MOTSC. They all improve kidney function because mitochondria, as everyone knows, they're one of the main functions, energy production in the cells, but they have a lot of other functions. And improvement in this area definitely leads to improved overall kidney efficiency. And this is the effect is sustainable. So beauty of peptides is that they able to they don't have negative feedback loop unless those are peptides that involved in the synthesis of certain hormones. But I'm not talking about hormones or hormone related peptides now. Like mitochondrial peptides just help in different way to improve certain mitochondrial processes and even improve lipid peroxidation inside the mitochondria. This nephrologist would agree that this is extremely important for kidney function. Then there are a group of peptides like B733, Cartalax, Cortagen, KPV. They in different degree involved in connective tissue, fibroblast function, and changes in fibrotic process of fibrosis and process of formation of scar tissue. And everyone would agree it's very important because fibrosis and scar tissue are killers of kidney. And if we can slow down or reverse this process is amazing. And even applying and playing with few of these peptides, I'm able to see significant improvement in creatinine, BUN, and GFR, back to normal level in patients who've been struggling with diabetic nephropathy and hypertension for a long time. Then there are peptides that improve endothelial function. Basic one, very well known one, BPC 157, it's very good, and TB 500 are good, but also peptides involved our favorite thymus-derived peptide, thymolene. It helps to stimulate T-regulatory lymphocytes, and directly or indirectly it reduces inflammation and autoimmune processes inside the kidney. And there are other peptides that, depending on genetic predisposition and what I see in first line of test or second or third line of test, I choose to use to affect this mTOR receptors, to affect inflammatory pathway or attrition of mitochondria, as I said, or improving. There are certain peptides that improve well endothelial function, less known peptides, Vesolute, Vesugen. I also use peptides that improve telomere health, like epithalone in combination with Vilone. All of them in different stages of treatment, I see good response, and patients suffering from kidney disease benefit enormously with good effects. And also there is use, sorry.
No, keep going. That's great. So peptides, but yeah, keep going. This is fascinating.
And of course, there are certain peptides that probably help to attract and differentiate certain certain stem cells. Hopefully, they home in the endothelial of glomeruli and help to restore their function to some degree. And I also combining peptides with the use of exosomes and see good results.
Exosomes aren't something I know a lot about. Do you want to just expand on that for people listening? Because a lot of people don't know a lot about exosome therapy and how that could be useful, especially in chronic kidney disease.
Yes, exosomes and secretomes, it's kickoff of stem cells. There are intracellular vesicles or vehicles that contain a lot of different peptides, growth factors, regeneration factors, and also they contain certain pieces of RNA, but compared to stem cells, they are much safer as they contain very little or none of foreign genetic material, and they have significantly less risk of transplant against host or host against transplant reactions, and many other parameters they consider it much safer. Also, the research shows they are much safer in terms of not triggering certain growths and cancers. And most of research shows that exosomes suppress tumor growth, while certain stem cells may actually contribute to growth of certain cancers.
Yeah,
So
fascinating.
there are certain benefits. Also, exosomes are much smaller. They are not cells. They are nanoscale. They're very small particles, so it makes it easier for them to penetrate or to go through different barriers, blood-brain barrier and other barriers, and kidney have different barriers between membranes, so exosomes can virtually get everywhere. And also scientists working with them tell me that exosomes have amazing capacity to go where the body needs them most.
Because that's the theory of stem cells, but you think exosomes are even more specialized at that?
And they have more capacity to go everywhere and get through.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And like you said, the kidney tissue is so small and nuanced that that's super important, especially if there's any sclerosis or fibrosis going on inside the cells. It's very hard, obviously, things to get in there. Okay, so exosomes and peptides. Is there anything else, apart from the obvious that you said, making sure the drivers are looked at and dietary interventions? Are there anything else as far as
Yes.
therapy that you would use?
Yes, hyperbaric interventions, hyperbaric medicine,
Mm.
not extreme, mild and not extended durations, but it triggers release of stem cells from bone marrow. Many patients with chronic kidney disease have suppressed production of erythropoietin, and it's important because one thing leads to another and turns into some kind of vicious cycle or circle. If they don't produce enough erythropoietin, then they end up not having enough carriers for oxygen, and kidney love oxygen and get more deprived of oxygen and all the good things that this oxygenation brings. So I think hyperbaric interventions are good. And of course, supplements. People should realize that certain probiotics like Akkermansia or other well-studied now probiotics, they also organisms that produce peptides, and some of these peptides may be very beneficial for kidney as well. I try to get more information about this. I collaborate with certain companies who do very extensive research now on what microorganisms can do for different organs and diseases, but this is developing science. And what else? Probably certain, if people go for IV, they should be very careful when they have chronic kidney disease. I recommend monotherapy. Some things that can be beneficial is phosphatidylcholine. It can be very good for membranes and restore kidney cells membranes, but also in moderate amounts. I would be very careful with vitamin C. Vitamin C can be very damaging for kidney, while in general it's a very good molecule and substance. But all this love for extremes, when people get high amounts of vitamin C, can be very damaging for kidney. And for people with deficiency of
GHPR, fix whatever it is, yeah.
yes, certain enzymes, it can lead to very tragic results. So
Yes, yeah.
so everything should be done in moderation. Certain amino acids as a monotherapy can also be beneficial for kidney because they're beneficial for mitochondria and telomeres, but also in appropriate amount. Glutathione can be beneficial for kidney because it's detoxifies body well and may reduce creatinine level and maybe very good stuff. So I would recommend going for undoubtedly safe things, and they can be beneficial for kidney.
Yeah, fantastic. And the last question I wanted to ask you, Dr. Grinberg, because you are on the forefront of medicine and what's coming down the pipelines, what do you think the future of medicine and chronic kidney disease is? Do you think, I mean, I believe it's a curable disease because as you mentioned earlier on, you see people come right back up into normal function with diabetic nephropathy and things like that. But do you think long term we're going to cure chronic kidney disease and chronic diseases in general? What are you seeing? Because you're privy to stuff, 20, 30, 40 years before we actually see it mainstream. What are you seeing coming down the pipeline and the research that you're privy to? What's the future of medicine like with chronic diseases?
Thank you. I believe that any disease is a curable disease.
Totally agree.
And we're coming very close to it. And I work with few companies that provide high level of customized and individualized medicine, like company Neo7. For years, they've been specializing in analyzing biological fluids for 10,000s of signal molecules and then matching it with this patient genome and manufacturing peptides that hit the genes, the groups of genes that are responsible for specific, very rare, very considered by conventional medicine, very incurable diseases with good success. So this is a very good approach, and at this time it's possible to decode genome and to synthesize peptides that will hit the targets and will help a lot. And we see it's happening for rare metabolic conditions, PKA. More and more things are done. Even big pharma develops specific enzymes that able to support very well people that recently thought they had incurable metabolic conditions or genetic conditions. Then gene therapy is also developing, and then definitely I'm happy to see the development of reprogramming of the cells, all this work on finding these factors, Manaka factors that reprogram cells, and now other groups found much more of such factors that helps them to reprogram virtually any cell from the patient to any kind of cell they want. So also development of 3D biological scaffolding that eventually will lead to cloning our cells and creating a total replica of our organs from our own cells, or even improved versions of them. And also developing of cell medicine in the direction where we can custom design what stem cells we want to repopulate our bodies, and we can also deliver them specifically using I already work with some groups. They use very fine angiography to deliver groups of stem cells in the area, let's say, scar tissue after stroke or this and this. And I'm sure they will be able to deliver such cells in the renal artery to help the cells to get directly into vascularization of the kidney and to maximize the homing of the specific cell. So I see a lot of developments, and I'm sure most of the diseases people struggling now will be significantly alleviated or cured in the next 10 years. So my advice is do everything to extend your life, because every additional year of life and every additional saved cell in your body will help you after this year to extend it for 3 years and then for 5 years. As I don't remember who was it, Mr. Kurzweil or someone else, this theory that now that every year of life gives you additional 3 years, and then 3 years give you 10 years. So And that's not exaggeration. Maybe it's even better than we think.
Wow. Well, that's a very optimistic way to end this, because I think, I know myself included, when you're diagnosed with a chronic disease that's deemed as incurable, and especially people with chronic kidney disease, they're told that dialysis and transplants are their only options. And it's great to speak to someone like you who is on the forefront and working with these big biotech companies and really heading up some of the latest technology, to hear that there is hope for people and there are things coming down the pipeline. And, I'm thinking maybe, they won't cure these sort of things in my lifetime, but it's sounding like that actually it may happen in my lifetime because of the way everything's accelerating, which is really exciting. So for anyone listening, it's a great motivator to make sure that you change your diet, you're looking after yourself, you're maybe working with a qualified physician like Dr. Grinberg about making sure you've got individualized peptides that will help with all of that sort of stuff. Until we are able to roll out some of these sort of more curable interventions. So I think that's really exciting. So you still work with patients. So anyone that wants to work with you, I know you're in the US, but I also know that you can work with people around the world, depending on insurance and how that's set up via Zoom and Skype and things like that, because I know I'm going to be working with you. So I'll put in Dr. Grinberg's details below. He's got a website that you can contact him through and make a consult, and know that you will be very well taken care of, and very individualized medicine, and tested and checked thoroughly for drivers, and actually how to work individually, which I think has to be the future of medicine, working on people, not diseases, and causes, not effect, which it's really great to hear you're just wired that way. And for someone so high up in the medical world, it's really great to hear that. Is there any final comments, ideas, or things that you want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Well, I want to comment that when we say our lifetime now, it's extendable.
It's a very good comment. I was never sure if I wanted to extend my lifetime, but there's some hope there with maybe curing things. Maybe it won't be so bad. As long as we can look after our planet in the meantime, huh? Well, Dr. Grimberg, thank you. Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to add?
I want just to wish everyone good health, start this year, improving their health, improving their health span and lifespan. And there are a lot of things that can help you to do this. And actually, now we live in a times when there is a lot of knowledge. And if you selectively and intelligently use the information, you can help yourself. And if people need my help, I will be happy to help.
Amazing. I think that's a great message, and this will be rolled out early in we're in 2024 now, so this will be a couple of weeks away, so probably the first week of February when this comes out, so that'll be fantastic. So Dr. Grinberg, thank you again for your time. I know how busy you are. For anyone listening, I'll put in his details below so you can contact him. Remember to hit subscribe and like, that way that you will get notified anytime we put up a new podcast or episode. If you have comments, or remember, this is an amazing man with a huge body of knowledge in his brain. If there are any specific topics you'd like him to come back on, that means I can rope him back onto the podcast and talk about, please put them in the comments below and I'll make sure to share them with him. Remember to hit, as I said, subscribe and like. And if you want to know more about what we do, head to www.kidneycoach.com. Thanks again for being part of our community. We wish you all a happy new year. And Dr. Grinberg, thank you again for your time.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.